ladies and gentlemen. This is the Sound of Freedom live on the Orion Talk Radio Network, 1650 AM, New York State. Hello to each and every one of you. Happy to be here. I tell you what, friends, we have a special treat for you tonight. We're going to get right to him. He's been very gracious to give us an hour on the broadcast. So we're not going to keep him waiting, but he is a United States Marine Corps vet, self-made millionaire, founder of the Sons of Liberty Academy, sonsoflibertyacademy.com. If you've listened to this show, then you have definitely heard his material. No one's coming to save you, 5 places not to be when the dollar collapses, things of that nature. That's all from this guy right here. His YouTube channel, The Greatest Truth Never Told. It's been on YouTube for just over a year. It's got over 5 million views, so people are listening. His website, don't-tread-on.me, don't-tread-on.me. It's like his running blog, got a lot of good information on there, and hey, I'm just excited to have him on, folks. Chris Duane, welcome to the Sound of Freedom. How are you?
Hey, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, anytime, man. And, you know, like I kind of talked to you before with email, you know, it's hard to find. It's hard to find people who are trying to work outside of the system that we're in. And that's why I try to tell people about Sons of Liberty Academy. I mean, I've never found anything to help me kind of get into that mentality of, hey, you know, walking outside is much more powerful than walking inside. Chris, could you just give us a breakdown about the Sons of Liberty? Like, just give people an idea, like how long did it take you to do it, why you did it, that type of thing.
Well, I did it because I was in depression, and one of the first things I try to teach people is the 5 stages of awakening. There's 5 stages that every person goes through when they become welcome into a new reality. And it mirrors the 5 stages of grief that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross found when people deal with death, which is really just a change in paradigm, a change in the way of life when somebody dies. And we all may know it, but it's denial. It's the first thing, and then anger is the second thing, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. And the way I explain it for the awakening crowd is, and the reason why I do it is because it empowers people, speeds them through the process, and also gives them hope that there is something better on the other end. So right now, the majority of humanity is stuck in denial. They have no clue that this way of life is completely unsustainable. And if they do, it's too uncomfortable for them to even think about, much less do anything about. The people who do wake up, and whether it's the Federal Reserve or 9/11 or any myriad of really bad things out there that can and will happen when we give up our liberty to psychopaths, they become angry. And, a great deal out of the Patriot movement or the info movement or the truth movement is full of really pissed off people who want to go out and seek vengeance and, rant and rave and scream and type in big, bold letters and send out emails and do all that other stuff. And it's a totally useless energy, especially when it's not put in the right direction. And the third stage, which is bargaining, is the most annoying stage of the awakening. That's when, we get past the anger and start, annoying people. It's the most annoying stage of the awakening, ruining Christmas parties and birthday parties, talking about the Federal Reserve and so forth. And while the people who are sharing this information think that they're trying to help awaken other people to these issues that are very real and very important, the reality is that they're lost and really looking for answers, and they feel that the more that they can talk about it, hopefully somebody will give them guidance to move forward more positively, because right now they're feeling very upset and angry and frustrated. The fourth stage is depression, and this is where I did the academy. And that's when you've burned through all your friends, burned through all your relationships. No one knows. No one seems to care. The problems are too big, and you have no sense of direction. You can't go back to eating the steak in the Matrix because you know that it's fake. And there you sit. And I think the grand majority of the people in the truth movement are in one of these 3 middle stages, anger, bargaining, or depression. Very few of them have gone to the acceptance stage, where they can actually start doing positive, productive things in the light of being fully awakened and aware, and start doing things that are, positive, and actually start looking forward to the end of the dollar, So I think those 5 stages are a really good starting point for what I did. And I put together all this information because I felt that so much of the awakening process is hindered by either misinformation, or that there was no clear logical thought process of what one person needs to know from the very beginning to what it needs to the end. So I spent 3 years researching and going through all the same stuff that everybody else does late at night, watching all these documentaries, reading all these books, listening to every single person on earth talking. And after 3 years, I was stuck in the depression mode, and I said, all right, let's go back through the crime scene and figured out what works, and let's put it into place. So essentially what the Academy is 3 years of torture for me with all the information in the way that I wish I had learned it, to the point where it'll speed you through these 5 stages of awakening, and by the time you get to the end of it, you'll have a good grip on where the world is and what we can do about it. And we'll get into how I think walking away is probably the most effective way, and how I think I just changed Ron Paul, in his last farewell speech. And there's a whole big backstory about that too.
Right. And, just hearing you go through those phases, I know a lot of the listeners to this show are familiar with them because I talk about them all the time. And the thing that hit me the hardest when I was watching, I believe it's module 1 where you break that down. Am I right with the 5 stages?
I don't know if I do it there or I do it on The Greatest Truth Never Told on YouTube, but
okay. Well, what I'm getting at is I can remember vividly when I was watching you break it down. I thought, oh my gosh, I know every single stage that I was in. I just thought, wow, if only I would have saw that before I went through the anger phase, the depression phase. I myself was stuck in the bargaining phase for a very long time, and just now coming to the acceptance phase. Now, the thing is, a lot of people interpret walking away as a passive, just giving up, throwing the towel in, and we'll get to that a little bit later on because I definitely want to give you some time to talk about that. But I want to ask about the Sons of Liberty Academy, just to kind of sum it up, Chris, because we got about 3-4 minutes here before the break. To anyone who hasn't seen it, why should they see it?
Oh, I honestly, I wouldn't waste my time watching any other thing but the Academy, because I read 200, and think about this, I read 240 books. I don't even know how many hundreds of thousands of pages of information that went into there. I know I watched every single video on Google back before YouTube, and this is all going back 2005 to probably about 2009. And basically what I did was, I'd read a 300-page book and only get one line out of it worth even talking about. So it really streamlines the process, and I think that nobody else has attempted to formulate all the stuff that is needed to do this. This is not about just, finances or military history or economics or psychology. It's literally everything in our life is a lie, and I think I do a good job of touching on everything so that people can burn through this literally within, I don't know, probably about 2 weeks. It'd probably take you, if you're going real fast through it, right. Sometimes even a month. And through that time period, man, you'll go through these 5 stages and be ready to rock and roll on the other side.
Definitely. And I can remember you saying that in your search for the truth, you were having a hard time finding everything in one place, like a centralized place for information as far as how they attack us mentally, spiritually, economically, scientifically, everything.
Yep.
And hey, you're not joking. He's not joking, folks, okay? I've taken the Academy, and I took it 2 times because the first time I was still stuck in that depression bargaining phase where it didn't sink in, and I took it. I thought but at the same time I was still getting involved with federal politics, still trying to rant to people on Facebook and things like that. And I mean, once again, I can remember all of those phases very vividly, and I'm with you, folks. If you haven't seen the Sons of Liberty Academy, what is it, like 48 hours of free information?
Yeah, 48 hours of video information, and I probably have a couple hundred links of backup information. So, say, something doesn't ring right. Well, here's some of the links that I had of documents and all this stuff. There's so much free stuff in there. It's all free. I gave it away. That was another big step for me, coming from my background that I had. To give away my life's work. I mean, I literally spent years doing this. I consider this my life's work. And I'm right now in the process of releasing every single video onto YouTube to make it even more widely known. But it's totally free. All you do is, sign up, give your email address, and you're in.
Right on. Well, you heard it from Chris Duane, folks. This is the Sound of Freedom on the Orion Talk Radio Network. I'm your host, Ryan Brooks. We have to take a quick break. sonsofliberty.com, oriontalkradio.com. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back. You're listening to The Sound of Freedom live on the Orion Talk Radio Network, oriontalkradio.com. Check out my free blog, folks. Try to put some good information up there. Stay updated. The Sound of Freedom 1776.wordpress.com. Long name, but it's free. Just doing what I can to try to get the word out. We're going to go right to our guest for this evening, Mr. Chris Duane from the Sons of Liberty Academy, sonsoflibertyacademy.com, don't-tread-on.me. Here to break it down, walking away, individualism versus collectivism, freedom, freeing your mind. And I tell you, folks, he really brings a whole new definition to it. Chris, let's get into the secession thing, because I know there's a lot of people who think that this is 1776 reincarnated. God is telling these people to do this. Tell me why I'm wrong.
First of all, it all starts with this idea that you cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness that created the problem. You have to see the world anew. That's Albert Einstein's quote, not mine. And the idea is, when I started looking at Ron Paul 2012, you have to realize I was a super neocon Marine, Sean Hannity, I couldn't get enough of him. Rush Limbaugh, I couldn't get enough of him. 2005, I woke up to realize that, we've all been sold a lie. There isn't a damn bit of difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. They keep spending more money, more debt, more bills, more everything. Ron Paul comes along, and I'm like, wow, maybe I'm a libertarian, not a Republican. And I like the whole idea of freedom on both economic and social freedom. Basically, everybody should have two rules in their life. Do what you promise and don't do harm to others. Honestly, you can get rid of every single other law, regulation thing, and if everybody just stuck to those two rules, that would be it. So it comes down to, Ron Paul. I donated tons of money to Ron Paul 2008. I put up 500 signs all over New Jersey back then. Huge supporter, spent a lot of time, energy, and money. Ron Paul doesn't win. Of course not. So Ron Paul 2012 comes around. I'm like, all right, well, and I got invited down to Veterans for Ron Paul March in Washington, D.C., early February 2012. So it was this year. And, the guy asked me, can you come down and do that? And I said, you know what? I'm not going to, because I'm not going to play into this game anymore. I said, at the end of the day, Ron Paul is not going to save us. It's not going to happen. And I really started fundamentally looking at the problem. The problem isn't the bankers, the politicians, the military-industrial complex, the Illuminati, or whoever bad guy you want to put out there. The problem is us. We're the ones that are actively or passively enabling these guys. Every dollar that we keep inside your 401k, the Bank of America checking account, every, Apple computer we buy, every tax dollar that we spend, all this stuff, we're enabling the system. So I said, well, if it's not going to be one collective versus another collective, that can't happen, because all we do is revolve for 6,000 years with one group, getting everybody all ginned up on an illusion and overthrowing, either physically, financially, or other means, another group. And whenever that one group gets into power, they rig the game into their system, and it breeds content and resentment, and ultimately somebody else does that. And I said, well, instead of revolving in this thing, how about we evolve? And let's start looking at what we can do. I don't care which tyranny. I mean, short of, Nazi stormtroopers coming down my door, which we're not there yet, folks. There's nothing that's preventing me from withdrawing my money from the financial system, stop buying corporate shit that I don't need. Stop buying corporate stuff that you don't need, stop voting and enabling the politicians, and basically walk away. And it's not just being passive, like, I don't care. This is a strategic move, folks, and it's dangerous when you start to realize that, hundreds of thousands or millions of people, instead of marching on Washington, walking away from Washington. So a couple of strange things came along with Ron Paul. So I put out a couple of videos saying no one's coming to save you. We're the cause of all of our problems. We need to take responsibility. That's where we need to start.
Right.
And one of my supporters had an opportunity to ask Ron Paul the opening question on a campaign stop. And he said, Chris, what would you like to ask Ron Paul as a one question? So I said, you know what? I want to ask him this question. And I started off with that exact same Albert Einstein quote. And I said, you cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness that created the problem. You have to see the world anew. And that basically means that any real change really has to come from outside the system. There is no reforming a system, especially one as ingrained in it and that so many people are dependent upon. And we know that the system is mathematically going to collapse, so it's even more ridiculous to think that we would want to go fix the system. The worst thing that could have happened is Ron Paul gets in and maybe drags this out for another 20 years with some reforms, which I highly doubt would have happened. So we have this mathematical inevitability that's coming down. And I said, and my one question to Ron Paul was, Dr. Paul, do you think it's far better for us to work outside the paradigm, becoming independent, than give our implicit support for I forget if it was the paradigm or the system and stuff like that? And he didn't quite hear the question. I don't know if he just didn't hear it or didn't want to answer it, but I used that video as a kind of a launching point for this idea that we need to, have individuals walk away from the system. Flash forward 4 months later, I get called in to write the opening testimony for Ron Paul's last congressional hearing. And we get a 20-minute sit-down with Ron Paul. So I'm like, all right, here we go again. This is like number 3. I started this whole idea in February. Then, March comes around. We get to ask him that one question he didn't quite hear. I'm going to ask this man right to his face. So I was in Dr. Paul's office, and we talked for 15 to 20 minutes, and I knew I had 5 minutes left. And I said, Dr. Paul, I came all this way, and I'd like to ask you one question. I want to tell you a story of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi worked within the British Empire as a barrister or a lawyer for 20 years, trying to bring justice inside of a very rigged system. And he realized that at some point, nothing was going to change inside the system. It was too rigged, too entrenched. Nothing was ever going to change inside the system. I said, Mahatma Gandhi became historically significant when he walked away from the system and empowered others to do the same too. And I said, Dr. Paul, you have a unique opportunity where your political career is done. You've run for president 3 times. You've had a 40-year congressional career. I said, this is before the convention. I said, here is a unique opportunity for you to go out to the millions of people who have listened to you and tell them that you've been in office for 40 years and nothing is going to change inside the system, and that the best chance of liberty is for individuals to stop wasting their time, energy, and money for another collectivist campaign. No more money bombs, no more marches on Washington. You focus 100% of your effort on becoming most independent from that system, whether it's mentally, intellectually, physically, financially. The more that you can become independent, the more that they have less control over you. And what is more compelling than millions of people just no longer paying attention to the powers that be, and more importantly, disenfranchising it? And it has a twofold effect. You're like, every dollar you take out of the banking system, they have that thing leveraged up so high that the more money that comes out, it's deleveraging them probably at 10 to 1, 20 to 1, 40 to 1. And every dollar that you put into real physical assets that you need, you're empowering yourself to become more independent so that when the dollar does collapse, you're ready and they're on their way out. That you don't even care if the stock market goes down, 10,000 points because you don't have any money in the stock market.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. And then he responded to me with this. Well, I've talked a lot about this, and at the end of the day, de facto nullification is what's going to end up happening, and I have another meeting. So I launched into another thing. I said, well, de facto nullification is after the system's collapsed and no one pays attention to it. I said, it would have been far better if Ron Paul went out there and said, hey, the system is going to collapse, and this is the thing that you need to do before the collapse, and, to empower yourself. And this is the only way to bring about effective change. And if you listen to the text of his farewell speech, there's probably 8 quotes in there that I could have probably written for him, saying, don't, trust yourself, not the government.
Right. He seems like he's doing just that. And
exactly.
It's something I'm trying to do here, and it's hard because even alternative media, today it's so easy to point out that we have problems and that things are wrong.
What's the solution?
Saying exactly, what can we do about it? What can you do about it, the listener? What can I do? What can Chris do? And hey, that's the beauty of it. More people are starting to realize it. And Chris, we have to take a quick break here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Sound of Freedom, Orion Talk Radio, oriontalkradio.com. Don't-tread-on.me, Chris Duane's website. We got a 3-minute break. Don't go away. We're going to talk FEMA camps, Agenda 21, and much more. Stay with us.